Hi there, Kirtana here. In today's video, I wanted to add a whole other facet to my channel. I wanted to also talk about everything I am trying in this, journey of being an entrepreneur, helping other agency owners, helping other businesses, basically kind of tell them what I have done and what practice has worked for me. So, it is something they could test out and see if it works for them. And, really share, these breadcrumbs along the way, which has really helped me. And one such habit that has changed a lot about the way I operate is reading. And when I say reading, I'm not just reading any book, right? I'm pretty selective about the books I'm reading. And most of it is in the nonfiction space. So how I kind of understood this in, how my brain sort of made sense of this is I read this in a Dr. Joe Dispenza book where he basically talks about each of us had neural pathways around the way we think, the things we do, the way we operate. So think of it like, you taking a specific route all the way from, say, your house to the mall. And even if you turn off your brain, you automatically go from destination A to B because you've probably been on that route many times. So that's how your neural pathway functions. When you've done the same task repeatedly over and over and over and over again, that neural pathway is really strong, which is why our parents, older people who we deal with, it's harder for them to change because their neural pathway is so much more stronger, than someone like us. So what reading does is it basically disintegrates your old neural pathway, and this change is usually uncomfortable. Think of it when you're joining a gym. You're very uncomfortable the first few days because your neural pathway is disintegrating and a new neural pathway is forming. So once the formation happens, it's very easy for you to operate, and then it's all about strengthening this whole new neural pathway. So what reading did for me is it really helped me disintegrate my old ways of functioning and create a useful neural pathways, which is really kind of helping me with the vision I have for my life. And I think that is a simple short summary of how reading helps me. And what I do is I try to read about 5 to 10 pages every single day of a specific book. And this is usually in the business realm, and I focus on copywriting, sales, mindset, and entrepreneurship in general. So it has really changed the way I operate. It changed the way I think. So I would recommend for you to sort of give this a try. And if you're somebody who is not into reading and you prefer audio to be your medium, go ahead and listen to an audiobook. I combine two. I listen to it in 2x audio speed and also read it. So figure out your medium and just, have somebody who's better than you sort of talk about their journey, because that's going to be like, oh, what is going to give you a rough map as to what you should sort of do. And with that being said, one book that has really sort of made me disintegrate my old ways is The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And this book is close to me because I've not only read it once in the ebook version, I found it in my friend's house and picked the paperback. Then I also listened to the audiobook and then also kind of read the summary twice. So over time, what I've realized was just reading X number of books per year is a vanity metric. For me, it was about reading, applying. And otherwise, reading, revising, and applying. So until I kind of applied it, I didn't see much change. So reading is part 1, applying is part 2. So continue watching this video to get a quick summary of what this book is about. And I would love for you to go pick it out yourself. So The Obstacle is the Way is a book by Ryan Holiday, and like the title suggests, what he's basically trying to say, so he believes extremely in Stoicism, and all of his writings is sort of based on Stoicism. And this book essentially says every single day, each of us are kind of, dealing with a ton of obstacles. And when there's an obstacle, there are two ways we could kind of face it, right? We could be like, oh my God, this is an obstacle. The economy sucks. The politician is messed up. Or we are, at the time of a global pandemic. So this is the obstacle. Now, growth does not happen by changing this and saying, oh my God, I'm not going to do this. This does not make sense, and move to another thing. But, to kind of pass through the obstacle, because the obstacle is the way, and that is essentially what you sort of have to cross to get to the next level in your life, in your journey, in your goal. And think of it like a video game. You have levels. It starts off easy. It keeps getting tougher as you go. And you have to kind of cross your obstacles to get to the next stage. It's interesting how in video games we love that, but in life we hate that. So this book predominantly talks about how we should start viewing obstacles. And basically, he talks about the impediment to action advances action. So what stands in the way becomes the way. So he goes into depth as to how a lot of great people have understood this concept and lived their life this way to kind of be better and constantly work and improve themselves. So there are three pillars which essentially cover the obstacle is the way. That one is perspective, the second is action, and the third is will. So the first thing is the discipline of perception. Perspective basically means how you're looking at the obstacle in front of you. So when I show peanuts to somebody and they love it, it could be like, oh my God, I love this. However, if somebody is allergic to peanuts and when they look at it, they hate it. So the perspective of the person really matters. So what Ryan is kind of covering in this book is saying, hey, don't have a positive or a negative perception to an obstacle. Have and tend to build a neutral perspective to an obstacle. So that way your emotions are detached from the obstacle that you're facing. And the next thing is he talks about focus on what you can change. Many times in life, we fret about the details that are beyond our control. And he basically teaches you and says, look, you have things in your control. You don't have things which are not in your control. What you can do is focus on the parts which are in your control. And let go of the others. It really does not matter. And the other things that you can control, for the things that you can't control, is your emotions, your attitude, your judgments, and your responses. So even for the things that you can't control, there are a few things emotionally that you can control. The next thing is to think differently. So think differently about the obstacles that you face. You could either be like, hey, this is teaching me something, or this is hindering my growth. So really think differently about what you're seeing. Lastly, turn obstacles upside down. So in every situation, obstacle, there's a hidden opportunity. And you have to start training yourself, or basically do a slight mindset shift to be able to change your perspective all in all. The next thing is action. And perception without action is not going to get you far. Perception and action without will is not going to get you far. So once you perceive an incident or an obstacle as, hey, this is what I'm seeing, I'm neutral towards it, I'm thinking about it differently, I want to kind of get past this, the next step is action. And the first and the teeny tiniest thing when it comes to action is just get started and get going. And we too often get caught in this whole, I want this to be perfect, this vicious cycle of perfectionism. And that is really not going to get you far, because it starts off, we live in the time of MVP and testing and improving and feedback. It doesn't make sense to try to perfect everything in your life. Just go ahead and put it out. You're going to get feedback, take that feedback and improve. So just get going. 2, be persistent. You're going to see a lot of failure, and at each stage, your obstacles are going to get harder. but stay persistent. Don't change your goal just because the obstacle looms to be bigger than what it's supposed to be. And be creative, do what works. Don't get stuck with this rule book saying, oh, step number 1 is this, step number 2 is this, step number 3 is this. Sometimes you probably just need, step number Z, which is not even in the manual. So be creative, sort of do it. And he talks about this one incident which I love. So there were these 2 fruit companies in Central America, and both wanted to buy the same piece of land. So what really happened was, there were 2 different people who claimed that the piece of land was theirs. So what did the big company do? The big company followed the rule book. They went and said, oh my God, we're going to get the best attorneys, we're going to get the best lawyers to fight this for us, and we're going to win this land. And what did the small guy do? What he did was he basically paid both the people who said it was his land. He gave both of them money and he solved it at one go without having to deal with the case and, going to the court and solving it. So that essentially means you're thinking creatively, right? And the last thing is the discipline of will. So this is an area, honestly, I had to focus the most on. And I was okay with perspective, had to train myself to get good at that. I was okay with action, had to also strengthen that piece. But I feel this was the piece which required most of me kind of putting my effort and working through it. And the first part of this is to create an inner citadel. And what this basically means is you could perceive an incident to be, you could treat it correctly, you could take the right actions, and sometimes the results still don't materialize. And that is when you have to build an inner citadel. And inner citadel essentially is the will to accept it and say, okay, you know what, I failed, or whatever, this hasn't worked. And not take it too personally and say, oh my God, I suck, that's why this didn't work. And, this is what my life is going to kind of amount to be. So build your inner citadel and strengthen it, sort of like a muscle group, right? Like when you're going to the gym, you're going to do your biceps, you're going to do your triceps. You're going to do all of that. So just strengthen this inner citadel. So every time you sort of hit with some kind of defeat, you take it in the right spirit. Practice acceptance, an extension to that. This is hard, but he says love whatever happens. So yeah, it's going to take some time for me to be able to love everything that happens to me. But I guess this is something you'll only realize in hindsight. But practice it and be like, okay, you know what, this has happened, so screw it. Let's just figure out how to go about this. And really have a larger purpose beyond yourself, because then everything you want just gets magnified. Like for me, in the beginning of being a remote entrepreneur or a digital nomad was the lifestyle. I wanted to be able to travel, have the freedom. And today my goal sort of expands beyond me. I basically want to help other agency owners prevent entrepreneurial burnout and help them with their processes, systems, automations, because I love this and I've been there. So that's really my goal, and it extends beyond me, right? So that's really a quick 2-minute summary of The Obstacle is the Way. However, I would love for you to go ahead and pick this book and read it yourself. Remember, I told you about the neural pathways and how you kind of break the old ones, add the new ones, and work on it. Work on it. Once you change your neural pathways, everything starts getting easier. So the way I sort of do my reading is I like listening to an audiobook. I listen to it in 2x speed. And sometimes what I do is I listen to it in 2x speed and also have the ebook in front of me. And I always highlight, make notes, and I don't try to finish the whole book in a day. I try to kind of digest it in bits and pieces. And I also use this, so the apps that I use is Kindle for ebooks. I use Scribd or Storytel for audiobooks in addition to Audible. And thirdly, what I also use is I use this application called Shortform. And this video summary is from sort of constructed from Shortform. And it is a beautiful app because I've never seen an app go into such depth in summary. Usually you miss out these important chunks, right? However, in Shortform, that's not the case. You really, really get the gist of the book. And it really helps you kind of just be able to revise and understand what the the nuggets in the book really are, and it makes it actionable. So that's really my reading routine. I would really encourage you to pick up a book and read 5 to 10 pages, or listen to it for about 10 minutes a day, and wait for it to compound. It's not going to show you any immediate result, but I've been doing this for a year, and I can obviously tell you what a change it's made to my life. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please go ahead and do it now. Like, subscribe, all of the jazz. Have a great day. Bye.